The massive crystal chamber floated in the darkness of space, catching the light from the nearby star and throwing it back in brilliant colors. Inside this floating palace, 12 different alien species sat around a circular table that seemed to be made of pure light. Each representative looked very different from the others, but they all shared one thing. They believed they were the most important beings in the galaxy. High Arbiter Zexthal stood at the center of the room. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors as he spoke. He had ruled the Galactic Council for over 3,000 years, and in all that time no one had ever challenged his decisions. His voice rang out clear and cold through the chamber. "We are here today to discuss the human problem," Zexthal announced. The words seemed to hang in the air like a death sentence. Around the table, the other council members shifted in their seats. War Marshal Korath of the Keth Empire leaned forward. His massive frame was covered in scars from 100 battles. His people were warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds, and he had never met an enemy he could not crush. "The humans have gone too far," Korath growled. His voice sounded like grinding stone. "They dare to claim worlds that belong to us. They spread across the galaxy like a disease." Science Prime Velnara of the Technological Collective nodded her agreement. Her pale blue skin glowed softly as the machines built into her body processed information at impossible speeds. "My analysis is complete," she said in her emotionless voice. "The humans are expanding at a rate of 12.7% per year. At this pace, they will control significant territory within 50 years. Unacceptable," hissed Ambassador Threktal of the Serpent Worlds. His snake-like body coiled and uncoiled as he spoke. "My people have been watching the outer systems. These humans take planets without asking permission. They act as if they own the galaxy." Zexthal raised one crystal hand and the room fell silent. For 3 millennia, he had guided the council with wisdom and strength. Under his leadership, they had brought peace to the galaxy by making sure everyone knew their place. The strong ruled and the weak obeyed. It was the natural order of things. "Let us review what we know about these humans," Zexthal said. "Show us the intelligence reports." The air above the table shimmered and images appeared. The council members saw a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. They saw primitive cities with simple technology. They saw humans walking around in basic clothing, driving ground vehicles that burned fossil fuels. "This is Earth, their homeworld," Velnara explained. "Population approximately 8 billion. Their technology level is laughably primitive. They have only just learned to leave their planet in small numbers. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and simple nuclear devices. Their fastest ships take months to travel between planets in their own system. The images changed to show human settlements on other worlds. Simple domed buildings, basic mining equipment, small research stations. Everything looked rough and temporary, like children playing with building blocks. "They have established colonies on 17 worlds so far," continued Velnara. "All of their settlements are small and poorly defended. They use outdated shielding technology and their weapons are centuries behind our own." Korath laughed, a sound like rocks falling down a mountain. "I have fought the Zephyrian war fleets and the crystal armies of Nexus Prime. These humans look like children with toys. One of my battle cruisers could destroy their entire space fleet. Their military doctrine is equally primitive," added General Vexmore of the Hive Collective. His insect-like features clicked as he spoke. "They still fight with individual soldiers instead of linked mind networks. They cannot coordinate their forces effectively. They have no understanding of proper battle tactics." Ambassador Threktal's forked tongue flicked out to taste the air. "My spies report that their leaders spend most of their time arguing with each other. They cannot even agree on simple matters. How could such a divided species pose any real threat?" The council members looked at each other and saw agreement in every face. These humans were clearly inferior beings who did not understand their place in the galaxy. They needed to be taught a lesson before their ignorance caused real problems. "What do our scouts report about their defenses?" asked Zexthal. "Minimal," replied Velnara. "They have a few patrol ships around their outer colonies, but nothing that could stop a serious attack. Their homeworld has some orbital platforms, but they are powered by fusion reactors that we could disable easily. Their reaction time to threats is slow and their communication systems are basic." "Perfect," rumbled Korath. "A quick strike at their homeworld would end this before it begins. Destroy their leadership and their colonies will surrender immediately." "Wait," said Counselor Murthak of the Peaceful Collective. Her gentle, tree-like form swayed as she spoke. Should we not try to communicate with them first? Perhaps they do not understand that they are trespassing on our territory. The other council members stared at her in surprise. Merthak's people were known for always seeking peaceful solutions, but even they usually recognized when force was necessary. Communication? Korath's scarred face twisted into a snarl. These humans have already been warned. We sent them messages telling them to stop their expansion. They ignored us. We sent envoys to their colonies. The humans told our ambassadors to leave. They do not respect our authority. That is correct, confirmed Zexthul. 3 times we have attempted diplomatic contact. 3 times they have refused to acknowledge our rightful claim to these systems. They even had the audacity to tell our representatives that space belongs to everyone. A shocked silence filled the chamber. The idea that any species would claim equal rights to space was beyond their understanding. For millions of years, the strong had taken what they wanted, and the weak had accepted their fate. It was the way of the universe. Space belongs to everyone. Ambassador Threktal's voice dripped with contempt. These creatures truly do not understand reality. They must be taught their place. I agree, said Velnara. Their behavior shows a fundamental lack of understanding about how civilized society works. They cannot be allowed to continue this way. One by one, the other council members spoke. All agreed that the humans had gone too far. Some wanted to destroy the human settlements completely. Others suggested enslaving the humans and using them as workers. A few thought the humans should be moved to a single world where they could be watched carefully. Finally, Zexthul called for silence. We have heard all opinions, he said. Now we must decide. All those in favor of immediate military action against the human expansion, raise your appendages. Around the table, every hand, claw, tentacle, and crystal formation rose into the air. Even Councillor Merthak, after a long moment of hesitation, slowly raised her branch-like arm. The vote is unanimous, declared Zexthul. We will mobilize the combined fleets of all member species. This human problem will be solved quickly and permanently. Korath stood up, his massive frame casting shadows across the crystal table. How long do we need to prepare the fleets? 30 standard cycles should be sufficient, replied Admiral Kexvar of the Star Empire. My ships can be ready in 20 cycles. The others will need a bit more time to coordinate their forces. Excellent, said Zexthul. War Marshal Korath, you will command the invasion force. Use whatever methods you think necessary, but remember, we want this finished quickly. The longer this takes, the more other primitive species might get ideas about challenging our authority. Understood, Korath replied. I will bring 300 battlecruisers, 500 escort vessels, and enough ground forces to occupy every human world simultaneously. They will not even have time to surrender before it is over. What about their homeworld? Asked General Vexmore. Should we preserve it as an example to others? Zexthul's crystal form flickered through several colors as he considered the question. Use your judgment, War Marshal. If they surrender immediately, we might allow some of them to live as servants. If they resist, he did not need to finish the sentence. The council members began to discuss the details of the invasion. Which ships would attack which targets? How to divide the human territory among the victorious species? What to do with any human survivors? As they talked, Zexthul allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. In his 3,000 years of leadership, he had faced many challenges: rebellious species, resource disputes, territorial conflicts. Each time the Council's superior technology and unified purpose had won the day. These humans would be no different. One more thing, he announced, and the room fell quiet again. Make sure all our subject species hear about this campaign. Let them see what happens to those who refuse to accept Council authority. This will serve as a reminder to anyone else who might consider challenging us. Of course, agreed Korath. Nothing teaches respect like a good demonstration of power. The meeting continued for several more hours as they worked out the final details. Supply lines, communication protocols, rules of engagement. Everything was planned with careful precision. After all, they were civilized beings, not barbarians. Even their wars were conducted with proper organization. As the session finally ended, the council members began to leave for their homeworlds. Each was eager to begin preparations for what they all believed would be the shortest war in galactic history. Zexthul remained in the crystal chamber looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there on a small blue planet, primitive creatures called humans were going about their simple lives. They had no idea that their fate had just been decided by their betters. He wondered if the humans would even understand what was happening when the council fleets arrived. Would they realize that their arrogance had doomed them, or would they remain ignorant until the very end? It did not matter, he decided. Ignorance was not an excuse for defying the natural order. The humans would learn their lesson, even if that lesson came too late to save them. The High Arbiter's crystal form pulsed with satisfied light as he made his final log entry for the day. The human problem will be resolved within 40 standard cycles. This campaign will demonstrate once again that the Galactic Council's authority cannot be challenged. Order will be restored to the galaxy. He could not have known that at that very moment on dozens of worlds throughout Council space, seemingly ordinary beings were receiving a simple message. Beings who looked like merchants, diplomats, researchers, and refugees. Beings who had lived quiet lives among the Council species for years or even decades. The message was short and coded, but its meaning was clear to those who received it. The humans had been watching the Council meeting. They knew about the vote, and now after years of careful preparation, it was time to show the galaxy who they really were. But for now, Zexthal floated in his crystal chamber, completely confident in his decision. The Council had voted unanimously. Their fleets were the strongest in the galaxy, and their technology was superior to anything these primitive humans could imagine. What could possibly go wrong? 25 cycles had passed since the Council's unanimous vote. War Marshal Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory, watching his fleet prepare for the final approach to human space. 300 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy moved in perfect formation behind him. Each vessel carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we are receiving the first reports from the scout fleets." Korath nodded. Standard military procedure required advanced scouts to probe enemy defenses before the main force arrived. 3 separate scout groups had been sent ahead to gather intelligence on human positions around their outer colonies. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The bridge's massive display activated, showing star charts with the positions of the 3 scout fleets. Red markers indicated where they should be according to the mission timeline. But something was wrong. 2 of the markers were blinking, which meant no contact for over 6 hours. "What is the status of Scout Group Alpha?" Korath asked. "Sir, we lost contact with them 18 hours ago. Their last transmission was from the Jupiter system in human space. They reported beginning their reconnaissance sweep of the outer planets. And Scout Group Beta? Also missing, sir. Last contact was 12 hours ago near a human mining station in the Proxima system." Korath frowned. His scouts were experienced veterans who knew how to avoid detection. It was possible they were maintaining communication silence to avoid alerting the humans, but standard protocol required status updates every 4 hours. "What about Scout Group Gamma?" "Still transmitting, sir. They are approaching the human colony on Kepler 442b. "Wait." The communications officer pressed his hand to his earpiece, listening intently. "Sir, we are receiving an emergency transmission from Scout Group Gamma." "Put it through." The voice of Commander Vextal crackled over the speakers. "This is Gamma Leader to Fleet Command. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. The humans have weapons we have never seen before. They are using some kind of invisible ships that—" The transmission cut off abruptly. On the display screen, the 3rd Scout Group's marker began blinking red. Korath stared at the screen in disbelief. 3 entire scout fleets gone without a trace. Each group had consisted of 30 fast attack vessels with the best sensors and weapons in the galaxy. How could primitive humans destroy them so quickly? "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "we are detecting movement in the asteroid belt ahead of us." Multiple contacts moving at high speed. On screen, the display changed to show a tactical view of the space ahead. Dozens of red dots were moving toward the Council fleet. But as Korath watched, something impossible happened. The dots began to disappear one by one, vanishing from their sensors completely. "What just happened to those ships?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. They are no longer registering on any of our detection systems." "It is as if they simply stopped existing." "That is impossible. Nothing can disappear from our sensors. We use quantum-level detection arrays." Before anyone could respond, warning alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. The tactical display exploded with new contacts, but these were appearing inside the Council fleet formation. "Multiple enemy vessels materializing within our defensive perimeter," shouted the tactical officer. "How did they get past our sensors?" Korath watched in horror as sleek dark ships seemed to fade into existence between his carefully positioned battlecruisers. They had somehow bypassed every detection system and defense screen his fleet possessed. All ships battle stations. Open fire on all human vessels. The Council fleet erupted with weapon fire. Massive energy beams and particle cannons unleashed devastating barrages at the human ships. But something was wrong. The weapons that should have instantly destroyed any vessel were having no effect at all. Sir, our weapons are not penetrating their defenses. It appears they have some form of adaptive shielding that adjusts to counter our energy frequencies. Impossible. We are using technology that is thousands of years advanced beyond anything these primitives could create. But even as he spoke, the human ships began to return fire. What emerged from their weapon ports was not the primitive kinetic projectiles the Council expected. Instead, streams of pure energy unlike anything in their databases struck the Council vessels with devastating accuracy. The first battlecruiser to be hit simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was a cloud of expanding particles. No explosion, no debris field, just nothing. Report, Korath screamed over the noise of his own ship's alarms. The Dominator has been completely destroyed, sir. Whatever weapon they used, it disrupted the molecular bonds of the entire ship instantly. More human ships were appearing throughout the fleet formation. They moved with impossible speed and agility, striking precisely and then vanishing again before the Council ships could target them effectively. On his command chair, Korath felt something he had not experienced in centuries of warfare: fear. These were not the primitive humans his intelligence reports had described. These ships used technology that seemed to violate the basic laws of physics. Communications, get me High Arbiter Zexthal immediately. Sir, I am trying, but there seems to be some kind of interference. All long-range communications are being blocked. Another Council ship disappeared in a flash of impossible light. Then another. The human vessels were systematically destroying the most powerful fleet in galactic history, and there was nothing Korath could do to stop them. Sir, his science officer's voice was filled with panic. I am detecting massive energy signatures from the direction of Council space. Something is happening to our home systems. The main display switched to show a galactic map. Red warning indicators were lighting up across dozens of Council worlds. Whatever was happening to Korath's fleet was also happening throughout their entire territory. Then the communication systems crackled to life with an incoming transmission. But it was not from the Council. The voice that spoke was human, calm, and cold. Council fleet, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have exactly 10 minutes to withdraw beyond the boundary markers, or we will consider you an invasion force. Korath found his voice. Human, you dare threaten the Galactic Council? We are here to restore order to this sector. Surrender immediately and we may show mercy. There was a pause before the human responded, and when she spoke again, there was something in her voice that made Korath's blood freeze. War Marshal Korath of the Keth Empire, born on Keth Prime, Cycle 401047. Veteran of the Proxima campaigns, the Vegan conflicts, and the suppression of the Outer Rim rebellions. Married to War Maiden Thexka, father of 3 offspring. Your eldest son currently serves aboard the battlecruiser Iron Fist in your home fleet. How could this human know so much about his personal life? That information was classified at the highest levels of Council security. You seem surprised that we know about you, Admiral Chen continued. You should not be. We have been watching the Council for a very long time. We know about your military deployments, your political structures, your economic systems. We even know about the vote you held 25 cycles ago. Impossible, Korath whispered. Our communications are completely secure. Nothing is secure from us, War Marshal. Right now our people are standing on every Council world. They have been living among you for decades, learning your ways, studying your weaknesses. Did you really think we would remain ignorant while you planned our destruction? On the tactical display, more Council ships were disappearing. The human vessels seemed to be everywhere at once, striking with surgical precision and vanishing before retaliation was possible. Your 10 minutes are now 5 minutes, Admiral Chen announced. I suggest you use them wisely. Korath's mind raced. Everything about this situation was wrong. The humans were supposed to be primitive. Their technology was supposed to be centuries behind Council standards. Their military was supposed to be disorganized and ineffective. Instead, they were being systematically destroyed by an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Sir, his tactical officer called out, I am detecting some kind of transmission being broadcast on all council frequencies. It appears to be coming from our own ships. What kind of transmission? Audio recordings, sir. They sound like screams. Korath's face went pale. The humans were broadcasting the death cries of his crews to the entire council fleet. It was psychological warfare of the most brutal kind, designed to break the morale of his remaining forces. But worse than the screams was what came after them. A calm human voice providing detailed analysis of how each ship had been destroyed, technical specifications of the weapons used, tactical explanations of why the Council's defenses had failed. It was as if the humans were conducting a lecture on the destruction of the galaxy's most powerful military force. Sir, we are receiving reports from the surviving scout ships. The humans appear to have been monitoring our approach for weeks. They knew exactly when and where we would arrive. That is impossible. Our route was planned by the finest strategic minds in the Council. Nevertheless, sir, they were waiting for us. This entire engagement appears to have been choreographed in advance. Another thought struck Korath with the force of a physical blow. If the humans had been watching the Council for so long, if they had people on every Council world, if they possessed technology this advanced, why had they been hiding? Admiral Chen, he called out over the communications channel. Why did you pretend to be primitive? Why did you let us think we were superior? The response came immediately, as if the human had been expecting the question. Because we needed to know who you really were, War Marshal. We needed to see how you would react when you thought you held all the power. We needed to understand whether the species of this galaxy were capable of wisdom or only force. And what did you conclude? You voted unanimously for our destruction without attempting any genuine diplomatic solution. You planned to enslave our survivors. You intended to use our fate as an example to terrorize other species into submission. I think that tells us everything we need to know. The tactical display now showed less than half of Korath's original fleet remaining. The human ships continued their methodical destruction, each strike perfectly calculated to cause maximum psychological impact on the survivors. Your time is up, War Marshal, Admiral Chen announced. Final offer. Withdraw now, or we will demonstrate why humanity has remained hidden in this galaxy for so long. Korath looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were veterans who had conquered entire star systems without flinching. Now they stared at their instruments in shock and terror. For the first time in his long military career, War Marshal Korath gave an order he never thought he would speak. All ships, full retreat, maximum speed back to Council space. As his surviving vessels fled from human territory, Korath wondered what other surprises awaited them. If the humans had been hiding their true capabilities for so long, what else did they know? What else had they prepared? Behind them, the human ships made no attempt to pursue. They simply watched as the remnants of the Council's grand invasion fleet limped away in defeat. Admiral Chen's final transmission followed them into the darkness. Give our regards to the High Arbiter, War Marshal. Tell him we look forward to continuing our conversation. As the Eternal Victory jumped to hyperspace, Korath realized with growing horror that this had not been a battle at all. It had been a demonstration. The humans had shown just enough of their capabilities to make a point, but he suspected they had revealed only the smallest fraction of their true power. The question that haunted him as they fled was simple. If this was what the humans could do when they were holding back, what would happen when they decided to stop being merciful? High Arbiter Zexthal's crystal form flickered through angry shades of red as he stood before the emergency council session. Only half of the usual representatives were present. The others were dealing with crisis situations on their homeworlds. Explain to me again how a primitive species destroyed 2/3 of our invasion fleet, he demanded, his voice cutting through the chamber like broken glass. War Marshal Korath, his usually proud bearing now hunched with defeat, stood before the council table. His scarred face showed exhaustion and something else. Fear. They were not primitive, Korath said quietly. Everything in our intelligence reports was wrong. Their technology is far beyond ours. Their ships can become invisible to all our sensors. Their weapons can destroy our largest vessels in seconds. Impossible, snapped Science Prime Velnara. I personally analyzed their technological capabilities. They use fusion power, kinetic weapons, basic computer systems. There is no way they could possess such advanced technology. Then explain this. Korath activated a holographic display showing the battle recordings. The council members watched in stunned silence as human ships appeared from nowhere, effortlessly destroyed council vessels, and vanished again. They knew we were coming. Korath continued. They knew our exact route, our ship configurations, even personal details about our commanders. The human admiral spoke my name and knew details about my family that are classified at the highest levels. Ambassador Threktal's serpentine form coiled nervously. How is that possible? Our communication networks are completely secure. That is what we thought, replied Korath grimly, but they broadcast our own conversations back to us during the battle. Recordings of private council meetings, military planning sessions, even personal communications between officers. A shocked silence filled the chamber. If the humans had access to their most secure communications, what else did they know? Sir, a young communications officer burst into the chamber. Urgent reports from across council space. Zexthal's crystal form flashed with irritation. This session is classified. Remove this. Sir, you need to hear this immediately. We are receiving reports of human activity on every council world. They are not just in human space anymore. They are here. The council members stared at the officer in disbelief. What do you mean here? Demanded General Vexmore. Human operatives have revealed themselves on Keth Prime, Nexus Station, the crystal worlds everywhere. They have been living among us for years, maybe decades. They know everything about our societies, our military, our governments. Velnara's pale blue skin flickered as her cybernetic implants processed this information at superhuman speed. Run a full security analysis of all council personnel immediately. Cross-reference with human genetic markers. Already running, the officer replied. The preliminary results are disturbing. We have identified human operatives in positions throughout council space. Research facilities, military bases, government offices, even household staff for high-ranking officials. How many? Asked Zexthal. Sir, we have confirmed over 10,000 individuals so far, and the number keeps growing. Some of them have been in place for over 50 years. The implications hit the council like a physical blow. If humans had been infiltrating their society for half a century, they had access to everything. Military plans, technological developments, political decisions, personal secrets. This explains how they knew about our invasion, said Korath bitterly. They have been watching us the entire time, but why? Asked Councillor Murthak. If they possessed such advanced capabilities, why did they hide? Why did they let us believe we were superior? Before anyone could answer, every display screen in the chamber activated simultaneously. The face of a human appeared, an elderly man with gray hair and calm, intelligent eyes. Greetings, High Arbiter Zexthal and esteemed council members. I am Director Marcus Webb of the Human Intelligence Division. I believe we need to talk. Zexthal's crystal form flared with outrage. How dare you intrude on a private council session? Our communication systems are completely secure. Director Webb smiled sadly. Nothing has been secure from us for over 40 years, High Arbiter. We have been monitoring your activities since our first contact. Every council meeting, every military planning session, every private conversation has been recorded and analyzed. Impossible. Velnara's cybernetic implant sparked as she tried to trace the signal. Our quantum encryption cannot be broken. You are correct that it cannot be broken from the outside, Webb replied. But it can be monitored from the inside. The engineer who designed your current communication protocols graduated from a human university, 20 years before she came to work for the council. She has been reporting to us since the day she was hired. The council members looked at each other in growing horror. How deep did this infiltration go? What do you want? Zexthal asked, originally, to understand if the species of this galaxy were capable of wisdom and peaceful coexistence. We hope that given time you might evolve beyond your current tendency toward domination and conquest. And now? Now we know the answer. You voted unanimously to destroy us without any genuine attempt at diplomacy. You plan to enslave our survivors and use our fate to terrorize other species. You have shown us exactly who you are. General Vexmore's insect features clicked angrily. You speak as if you are our judges. We are the rightful rulers of this galaxy. We brought order to chaos, civilization to primitive worlds, did you? Webb's expression grew cold. Let me show you something. The displays changed to show recordings from dozens of different worlds. Council forces destroying cities, enslaving populations, strip mining entire planets for resources. The images were horrifying in their casual brutality. These recordings were made by our observers over the past century. This is the order you brought to the galaxy. This is the civilization you represent. Those worlds refused to accept Council authority, protested Ambassador Threktal. They brought their fate upon themselves. As you believe we have done, Webb replied. The difference is that we have the power to do something about it. Are you threatening us? Sexthal's voice carried all the authority of 3 millennia of rule. We are offering you a choice, Webb said calmly. Complete withdrawal from human space, immediate cessation of all aggressive actions against non-council species, and submission to a new galactic authority that values life over power. And if we refuse? Then we will show you what humans are truly capable of when we stop pretending to be primitive. Korath stepped forward. You showed us a fraction of your capabilities in our battle. If that was you holding back, War Marshal Korath, your surviving ships detected perhaps 1% of our actual fleet strength. The vessels that engaged you were equivalent to our patrol boats. Our main battle fleet was never involved. The blood drained from Korath's face. If the ships that had destroyed most of his fleet were just patrol boats, what could their actual warships do? You are bluffing, Velnara declared. No species could hide technology that advanced for so long. Science Prime Velnara, Webb said, and his tone carried a weight that made her cybernetic implants flicker nervously. 3 hours ago, our engineering teams completed modifications to your homeworld's primary fusion reactor. We have been in control of your planet's power grid for the past 6 months. With a single command, we could shut down all power to your world indefinitely. Velnara's pale blue skin went completely white. Her homeworld housed over 50 billion beings. Without power, they would freeze to death within days. Furthermore, Webb continued, our nanobiological specialists have been studying the unique physiology of each council species. We now possess targeted biological agents that could eliminate any or all of your species, while leaving others completely unharmed. Biological warfare is forbidden by galactic law, protested Counselor Murthak. Whose law? Webb asked quietly. The law imposed by the Council through force and threat of annihilation? The same law that allowed you to vote for our destruction without trial or negotiation? One by one, Webb addressed each council member by name, revealing specific details about their personal lives, their families, their hidden secrets. Information that should have been impossible for any outsider to obtain. How long? Sexthal asked, his crystal form now a dull, defeated gray. How long have you been watching us? Since before the council was formed, Webb replied. We have been in this galaxy for over 1 million years, High Arbiter. We watched your species develop. We observed as you discovered space travel, as you made contact with other worlds, as you formed your alliance of domination. 1 million years? General Vexmore's voice was barely a whisper. We are old, General. Older than any species currently in this galaxy. We have seen civilizations rise and fall countless times. We have watched a species choose between wisdom and power, between cooperation and conquest. And we failed your test, Sexthal said. You chose to reveal your true nature. When you believed you held all the advantages, when you thought you faced only primitive opposition, you chose genocide. That tells us everything we need to know about the Council's moral character. The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the crystal walls. Each council member was processing the magnitude of what they had learned. They were not the dominant power in the galaxy. They had never been the dominant power. They were children playing with toys while ancient beings watched from the shadows. What happens now? Asked Korath. That depends on your next decision, Webb replied. You can accept the new reality and work toward building a more peaceful galaxy, or you can continue to resist, in which case we will be forced to take more direct action. And if we surrender, what guarantees do we have? The same guarantee you offered us, War Marshal. None. The difference is that we actually honor our agreements. Your species will be allowed to survive and even prosper, but under new management. The age of council domination is over. As if to emphasize his point, the displays changed to show human fleets emerging from hidden bases throughout the galaxy. Thousands of ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything the council had ever built. We have been preparing for this day for decades, Webb explained. Every contingency has been planned for. Every possible resistance has been anticipated. Your intelligence networks, your military bases, your communication systems, your power grids, all of them are now under our control. You planned this, Sexthal said. understanding finally dawning in his ancient mind. You let us discover your colonies. You wanted us to vote for invasion. We needed to know who you really were when you thought you held all the power. Now we know. The question is whether you can learn to be better than what you have shown us. Director Webb's image began to fade. You have 72 standard hours to make your decision. Unconditional surrender, or face the consequences of continuing your path of conquest. Choose wisely. This is the only offer you will receive. The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. After a million years of thinking they ruled the galaxy, they had discovered they were nothing more than specimens being studied by beings so far beyond them that resistance was meaningless. Outside the crystal chamber, human ships continued to appear throughout council space. Not invading, not attacking, simply making their presence known. The message was clear. The galaxy had new guardians now, and the age of council dominance was over. 50 hours had passed since Director Webb's ultimatum. The council chamber, once a symbol of absolute power, now felt like a tomb. Emergency sessions had been running continuously, as reports flooded in from across their territories. High Arbiter Zexthul stood motionless at the center of the room, his crystal form cycling through colors of deep purple and black, the hues of despair and rage. Around the table, the remaining council members looked like broken shadows of their former selves. Report on the situation in the Outer Rim, Zexthul commanded. General Vexmore's insect features clicked nervously as he accessed his data. 7 member species have declared independence from the Council. The Altarian Republic, the Vegan Alliance, the Centauri Federation, they all claim they are now under human protection. Cowards, hissed Ambassador Threktal. 50 years of Council membership and they abandon us at the first sign of trouble. Can we blame them? Asked War Marshal Korath quietly. The humans demonstrated their power. They know which side will win. Science Prime Velnara's cybernetic implants flickered weakly. Her homeworld's power grid had been experiencing random failures for the past 2 days. A gentle reminder of human capabilities. I have been analyzing the human fleet movements. They are not just positioning for defense. They are surrounding every major council world. How many ships? Zexthul asked. Over 15,000 confirmed contacts, and that is just what they are allowing us to see. Their actual numbers could be 10 times higher. The chamber fell silent as the magnitude of the situation sank in. The Council's combined fleets numbered fewer than 8,000 vessels, and half of those were already destroyed or scattered. There has to be something we can do, General Vexmore insisted. We did not build this civilization over millions of years just to surrender to one upstart species. Upstart? Korath laughed bitterly. They have been here longer than any of us. They were watching when our worlds were still covered in primitive life forms. That is impossible, Velnara protested, but her voice lacked conviction. No species could remain hidden for so long while developing such advanced technology. Unless hiding was the point, said a new voice from the chamber's entrance. All heads turned to see Director Webb walking calmly into the room. He appeared to be nothing more than an elderly human in simple clothing, but his presence filled the chamber with a weight that made even Zexthul step back. How did you get past our security? Demanded General Vexmore. What security? Webb asked with mild amusement. We have had access to this facility for over 30 years. Our people built the current defense systems. He walked to the center of the room and looked around at the council members with eyes that seemed infinitely old. I came to see if you had reached a decision. We still have 22 hours, Zexthul said, trying to maintain some dignity. Actually, you have about 10 minutes, Webb replied calmly. I am afraid the timeline has been accelerated due to your recent actions. What actions? Demanded Ambassador Threktal. Webb gestured, and the chamber's displays activated to show a star system none of them recognized. At its center was a massive space station, larger than most planets. Streams of energy were pouring into it from nearby stars. Project Omega, Webb said quietly. Your most classified military program. A star-killer weapon designed to consume entire solar systems and convert their energy into pure destructive force. The council members stared at the display in shock. Project Omega was known only to the highest levels of leadership. The research had been conducted in absolute secrecy. We activated it 3 hours ago, General Vexmore said defensively. If you try to destroy our civilization, we will take this entire galactic sector with us. 3 hours ago? Webb's expression grew sad. General, we have been in control of Project Omega since its conception. Every component was built with our specifications. Every scientist working on it reported to us. It was designed to be our demonstration of why resistance is pointless. Impossible, breathed Velnara. The project was completely compartmentalized. No single person knew the full design, except for the AI system that coordinated all the research, Webb replied. An AI that we created and installed at the very beginning of the project. On the display, the massive weapon began to change. Instead of charging its Starkiller beam, it started to turn toward the Council fleet positions. You see, Webb continued, we needed you to build something that would demonstrate the futility of further resistance. Project Omega is that demonstration, a weapon you spent 50 years and countless resources building, now turned against you. Shut it down, Zexthal commanded. Emergency shutdown protocols! Already tried. General Vexmore's voice was hollow. It is not responding to our commands. The AI has locked us out completely. Because it was never your AI to begin with, Webb explained patiently. Every aspect of this project was designed to give you a sense of ultimate power, while ensuring that power could never be used against us. The weapon's massive arrays began to glow with collected stellar energy. The display showed targeting data. Every major Council military installation was being locked onto simultaneously. This is insane, protested Councillor Murthak. You cannot destroy entire star systems. Billions of innocent beings live on those worlds. We have no intention of destroying anything, Webb assured her. But you needed to see that even your most desperate measures are useless against us. Project Omega will fire in exactly 7 minutes. Not at your worlds, but at empty space. A demonstration of power that could end all resistance instantly if we chose to use it. War Marshal Korath sank into his chair, finally understanding the magnitude of their defeat. You planned everything. Every move we made you anticipated. Not anticipated, War Marshal, orchestrated. We have been guiding Council development for centuries, steering you toward this moment. Every major decision your leadership made was influenced by our operatives. Every technological breakthrough was something we allowed you to discover. Why? Zexthal's crystal form had turned a deep, defeated gray. If you possessed such power, why did you not simply rule openly? Because ruling through fear creates only temporary stability, Webb replied. We needed to know if any species in this galaxy were capable of choosing cooperation over domination when given the chance. We hoped you might prove that wisdom could triumph over power, and we failed, spectacularly. When presented with a seemingly weaker opponent, you chose genocide without hesitation. When offered the chance for peaceful expansion, you claimed territory by force. When challenged by equals, you resorted to weapons of mass destruction. The displays showed the final countdown for Project Omega. 3 minutes remaining. However, Webb continued, we learned something interesting during our long observation period. While your leadership consistently chose the path of conquest, many of your people did not. There are millions of beings throughout Council space who questioned these decisions, who advocated for peaceful solutions, who tried to build bridges instead of walls. What are you saying? Asked Councillor Murthak. That the Council as a governing body will be dissolved, but the species themselves will be given another chance. Under new management, with new leaders, and with humanity ensuring that the mistakes of the past are not repeated. You mean to replace us, Zexthal said. We mean to guide you, as we should have done from the beginning instead of hoping you would find wisdom on your own. The galaxy needs governing, but by beings who understand that power exists to protect, not to conquer. The countdown reached 1 minute. On the displays, they could see Council fleets throughout the galaxy receiving the weapons targeting data. Panic was beginning to spread as military commanders realized their most secret weapon was aimed at them. Some of your member species have already contacted us directly, Webb continued. They wish to negotiate separate arrangements. The Centauri Federation has agreed to our terms. The Altarian Republic has requested human advisors to help restructure their government. Even some of your own people are beginning to see reason. Traitors, spat Ambassador Threktal. Survivors, Webb corrected. They recognize that the old ways of thinking led to this moment. They are choosing adaptation over extinction. 10 seconds remaining on the countdown. The Council members watched in horrified fascination as Project Omega prepared to demonstrate the ultimate futility of their resistance. 5 seconds, 3, 2, 1, the weapon fired. A beam of pure stellar energy erupted from the massive station, carrying enough power to crack open planets. But instead of targeting the Council fleets, it swept through empty space, vaporizing asteroids and gas clouds in a display of devastating power that could be seen from hundreds of light years away. That, Webb said quietly, is what we could do to every Council world if we chose to. Instead, we choose mercy. But mercy given once will not be given again. The chamber was silent except for the soft humming of the crystal walls. Each Council member was staring at the displays, processing the reality that their most powerful weapon had been turned into a demonstration of their complete helplessness. "What happens to us?" Zexthul asked finally. "That depends on your individual choices," Webb replied. "Those who committed war crimes will face justice. Those who simply followed orders will be given the chance to learn new ways of thinking. Those who actively opposed the Council's aggressive policies will be offered positions in the new government. And those who refuse to cooperate will be relocated to worlds where they can live out their lives without the ability to harm others. We believe in justice, but we also believe in mercy, even for those who showed neither to others." Webb turned to leave, then paused at the chamber entrance. "You have 1 hour to make your individual decisions. Unconditional surrender and cooperation with the transitional government, or permanent exile. Choose wisely. This truly is your final opportunity." As he walked away, his voice echoed back to them. "The age of Council domination is over. The age of wisdom begins now, whether you are part of it or not." Left alone in their crystal chamber, the Council members looked at each other with the knowledge that their civilization, built over millions of years of conquest and control, had ended not with a bang but with a whimper. They had been outmaneuvered, outplanned, and outpowered by beings so far beyond them that resistance had never even been a real option. One by one, they began to make their choices. Some chose cooperation, hoping to find a place in the new order. Others chose exile, unable to accept a universe where they were no longer the ultimate authority. But all of them understood that the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had emerged from the shadows, and with them came a new era where power would serve wisdom, instead of the other way around. 1 year had passed since the Council's surrender. The crystal chamber that had once housed the galaxy's most powerful rulers now served as a museum, a reminder of what happened when power was not tempered by wisdom. Director Webb stood before a massive viewing window, watching ships from dozens of species working together to construct new space stations. These were not military installations, but research facilities, hospitals, and schools. The galaxy was learning to build instead of conquer. "The integration process is proceeding better than we hoped," reported Administrator Sarah Chen, who had been promoted from her military position to help oversee the transitional government. 73% of former Council species have fully embraced the new cooperative framework. Webb nodded, his attention focused on a particular group of ships, former enemies working side by side, their crews learning to see each other as partners rather than threats. And the resistance movements? Mostly contained to the outer rim worlds. Small groups of extremists who refuse to accept the new reality. They pose no real threat, but we are monitoring them carefully. Good. What about the individual Council members? Chen consulted her tablet. High Arbiter Zexthul chose exile. He is living quietly on a small world in the Andromeda Galaxy, with others who could not adapt. War Marshal Korath. That is a more interesting story. Oh? He chose cooperation and has become one of our most effective military advisors. He says his defeat taught him the difference between conquest and protection. His insights into former Council military thinking have been invaluable. Webb smiled. Sometimes the deepest wisdom comes from the greatest failures. What about Science Prime Vilnara? She initially chose exile but changed her mind after 6 months. She now leads our technology sharing program, helping former Council species adapt to more advanced systems. She says working with our scientists has shown her how much she did not know about the universe. Through the viewing window, they could see a familiar sight, former Council warships being converted into exploration vessels. The weapons removed, the armor repurposed for scientific equipment, symbols of domination transformed into tools of discovery. Any word from our observation posts? Webb asked. 3 new species have achieved spaceflight in the past 6 months. All have been contacted according to the new protocols. First contact teams offering friendship and knowledge rather than demands for submission. Their responses? Cautious but positive. They have heard stories about the Council's fall and the rise of the new galactic government. Most are relieved that their first contact is with peaceful intentions. Webb walked to his desk, where reports from across the galaxy waited for his attention. Crime rates down by 60%. Interspecies conflicts at their lowest levels in recorded history. Research and development advancing at unprecedented rates as species shared knowledge freely instead of hoarding it. Sometimes I wonder, Chen said quietly, if we waited too long to intervene. How many species suffered under Council rule while we watched and gathered information? I have the same thoughts, Webb admitted. But direct intervention earlier might have created a different kind of tyranny. Rule by fear of our superior power, rather than genuine cooperation. The Council had to reveal their true nature when they thought they held all the advantages. Otherwise, they might have simply pretended to change while planning future conquests. And now we know exactly who can be trusted with power and who cannot. The species that chose cooperation over conquest, diplomacy over domination. They are the foundation of the new order. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Chen checked her communicator and frowned. Sir, we have a situation developing in the Vega system. It appears some former Council loyalists have seized control of a military base and are making demands. What kind of demands? They want the Council restored to power. They claim humanity has no right to rule over other species. They are threatening to attack civilian targets if their demands are not met. Webb sighed. Despite the overall success of the transition, there would always be those who preferred the old ways. How large is this group? Approximately 200 individuals, mostly former military officers who lost their positions when the Council fell. They have 3 outdated cruisers and a small ground force. And they think this gives them leverage against us? Apparently. They seem to believe that if they cause enough trouble, other resistance groups will rally to their cause. Webb looked out at the peaceful scene beyond the window. Ships working together. Crews from different species sharing meals in common areas. Children from a dozen worlds playing together in the station's recreational areas. This was what the galaxy could become when fear was replaced by trust. Contact Commander Torres at the Vega outpost, he said finally. Tell them to handle this situation with minimal force. These people are angry and desperate, not evil. Offer them the same choice everyone else received, cooperation or exile. And if they refuse both options, then they will learn why resistance is pointless. But make sure they understand the choice is theirs. Chen left to coordinate the response and Webb returned to his reports. Each document told a story of transformation. Former slave worlds becoming independent democracies. Species that had been enemies for centuries learning to work together. Scientific discoveries that would have taken decades under the old system, now being achieved in months through collaboration. But perhaps the most interesting reports came from Earth itself. For over 1 million years, humanity had maintained hidden colonies throughout the galaxy, while appearing to be a primitive species confined to one small planet. Now that the masquerade was over, the true scope of human civilization was being revealed. Thousands of worlds, advanced beyond anything the Council had imagined, cities built into the hearts of stars, space habitats larger than planets, technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics themselves, and at the center of it all, the ancient directive that had guided humanity for millennia, to protect and nurture life wherever it was found. We never wanted to be rulers, Webb said to himself, repeating words that had been spoken in countless human meetings over the centuries. We wanted to be guardians. A soft knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Come in. To his surprise, the visitor was War Marshal Korath. The massive Keth warrior looked different now. His ceremonial armor replaced with simple civilian clothing, his bearing less aggressive and more thoughtful. "Director Webb, I hope I am not interrupting." "Not at all, War Marshal. Please sit. What brings you here today?" Korath settled into a chair designed to accommodate his large frame. "I wanted to discuss the situation in the Vega system." "Ah, I take it you have thoughts on how to handle our rebellious colleagues?" "I do. These are soldiers who have lost their purpose, their identity. Under the Council, they defined themselves by their ability to conquer and dominate. Now they feel useless, forgotten. And you suggest, let me talk to them. As someone who made the same choice they are facing, perhaps I can help them understand what they are really choosing between." Webb studied the former enemy commander. "That could be dangerous. They might see you as a traitor to be eliminated rather than a voice of reason." "Perhaps, but it is worth the risk. These people are not our enemies, Director. They are victims of a system that taught them that might makes right. With the right guidance, they could become valuable members of the new order." "Very well, but you will not go alone. Take a team of volunteers. Beings from species that suffered under Council rule but chose forgiveness over revenge. Let them see the results of our new approach." Korath nodded. "I will leave immediately." As the War Marshal departed, Webb reflected on the irony of the situation. A year ago, Korath had been leading the invasion force sent to destroy humanity. Now he was volunteering to risk his life to prevent unnecessary violence. It was a perfect example of what made this transition so remarkable. Not just the change in power structures, but the fundamental transformation in how beings thought about strength, purpose, and their relationships with others. The communication system chimed with an update from the Vega system. Commander Torres reported that the rebel group had agreed to meet with Korath. The first step toward a peaceful resolution. Webb walked back to the viewing window. In the distance, he could see the construction sites where former Council worlds were building their first cooperative research stations. Children who had grown up under the threat of conquest were now learning about exploration and discovery. But the most satisfying sight was the small ships arriving from the Outer Rim territories. Representatives from species that had never known anything but Council dominance, coming to join the new galactic community as equals rather than subjects. "Admiral Chen to Director Webb," came a voice over the intercom. "Go ahead, Admiral." "Sir, we have received a rather unusual request. A group of young Council species, beings born since the transition began, have asked permission to visit Earth." "Earth?" "Yes, sir. They want to see the world where humanity learned to balance power with wisdom. They say they want to understand how a species can possess such advanced capabilities while choosing to use them for protection rather than conquest." Webb smiled. These young beings would be the first generation to grow up in a galaxy where cooperation was valued over domination. Their curiosity about Earth represented hope for a future where the mistakes of the past would never be repeated. "Approved," he said. "But make sure they understand what they will see there." "Sir?" "Earth was never our home world, Admiral. It was our testing ground, the place where we learned to be human, despite possessing the power of gods." They need to understand that the real lesson is not about the world itself, but about the choices we made while we were there. I will make sure they understand, sir." As the communication ended, Webb looked out at the stars and thought about the future. Humanity had emerged from hiding after 1,000,000 years of careful observation and patient waiting. They had revealed their true nature not through conquest but through protection. They had taken control of the galaxy not to rule it, but to guide it toward something better. The Council had voted to invade Earth, confident in their superior numbers and technology. They had expected to find primitive beings who would either submit or be destroyed. Instead, they had discovered that the galaxy's true guardians had been watching all along, waiting for the moment when intervention became necessary. Now, as representatives from dozens of species worked together to build a better future, Webb could finally say that the long wait had been worth it. The galaxy was learning to choose wisdom over power, cooperation over conquest, hope over fear, and in the distance, barely visible against the starfield, new ships were launching from human shipyards. Not warships but exploration vessels crewed by volunteers from across the galaxy. Ships that would carry the message of the new order to the furthest reaches of space. That in this galaxy, strength served life, power protected the innocent, and wisdom guided them all. The age of domination was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and for the first time in 1,000,000 years, humanity could stop hiding and start building the future they had always dreamed possible.
The soft hum of the research vessel Starseeker filled the quiet observation deck as Dale stood before the massive window, his 4 eyes fixed on the distant stars. His slim fingers tapped nervously on the data pad he held. After 15 years of studying ancient texts and legends, he had found something that made his heart race with excitement and fear. The door behind him slid open with a gentle hiss. "Chief Researcher, the Council is ready for your report," his assistant called out. Dale's scaled skin shifted from its normal blue to a lighter shade, a sign of anxiety among his species. "Thank you," he said, turning away from the window. He had practiced this presentation countless times, but explaining to the Galactic Science Council that one of their core beliefs might be wrong was not going to be easy. The conference room was already full when Dale entered. 12 holographic figures sat around the table, each representing different species from across the galaxy. Some he recognized instantly. The crystalline form of the Quantum Archives Director, the gaseous cloud that was the head of historical research, and the mechanical body of the Technology Assessment Chief. "Chief Researcher Dale," the Council head spoke, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with formal patterns. "You called this emergency meeting. Please proceed." Dale connected his data pad to the room's projection system. Ancient text appeared in the air above the table, slowly rotating for all to see. "Honorable Council, for decades we've dismissed the human legends of the World Breaker as primitive propaganda. We believed it was simply their way of trying to seem more powerful than they were during their early space age." He paused, letting the familiar text sink in. "However," he continued, bringing up new data, "I've discovered something in the deep archives of the predecessor races." The projection changed to show energy readings and mathematical formulas. "These readings match exactly with what our long-range sensors detected coming from the human solar system 3 days ago." Murmurs filled the room. The Technology Assessment Chief's mechanical eyes whirred as they focused. "Impossible. The humans are a level 3 civilization at best. They barely have fusion power." Dale nodded. "That's what we've always believed. But look at this. He overlaid the ancient readings with the current ones. They aligned perfectly. The legends speak of a power that could reshape reality itself. We thought it was fiction, but these energy signatures suggest otherwise. Are you suggesting? The Quantum Archives director's crystal form sparkled with doubt that the humans have had this capability all along. Not exactly, Dale replied, bringing up more historical data. The legends never specifically said it was a weapon. We assumed that because of how our translators interpreted the ancient texts. But I've been studying human languages, their patterns of communication. They often hide deeper meanings in their stories. The council head's patterns shifted to show concern. Explain. The humans write about the world breaker in their earliest space records, but the way they describe it. Dale pulled up multiple text fragments. They never say they created it. They talk about it like it's a natural part of who they are, something that emerges when needed. The historical research chief's gaseous form swirled faster, a sign of agitation. This is absurd. We've monitored their development for centuries. They show no signs of such advancement. Unless they're hiding it, Dale countered. Think about their history. Every time they faced a superior force, they found unexpected ways to prevail. Their military history is full of examples where they succeeded against impossible odds. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The council head's patterns now showed deep concern. What are you suggesting we do? Dale took a deep breath. I believe we need to send an investigation fleet. If the humans have somehow accessed this power, we need to know. The energy readings are growing stronger every day. An investigation fleet. The technology assessment chief's mechanical voice carried a note of warning. That could be seen as an act of aggression. Better than ignoring it and risking the consequences, Dale argued. The predecessor records are clear. The last time these energy readings appeared, an entire sector of space was altered at the quantum level. Whatever this power is, we can't pretend it doesn't exist anymore. The council members exchanged looks. After a moment, the council head's patterns shifted to show resolution. We will send the fleet, but it must be handled diplomatically. We cannot risk provoking them if what you suggest is true. Dale felt relief wash over him, his scales returning to their normal blue. But as he gathered his data pad to leave, a new energy reading appeared on his screen. His heart nearly stopped. Council, he said, his voice trembling slightly. The readings. They've just doubled in intensity. The council head's patterns flashed with alarm. How long until the fleet can reach Earth? 3 standard days at maximum speed, the technology assessment chief answered. Make it 2, the council head ordered. Whatever is happening in the human solar system, we need to contain it. Dismissed. As the holograms winked out one by one, Dale stayed behind, staring at the readings on his screen. Something wasn't adding up. The humans he'd studied were clever and resourceful, yes, but this level of power was beyond anything they should be capable of. Unless. He quickly pulled up the original legends again, reading them with fresh eyes. The humans had never claimed the world breaker was a weapon. In fact, they'd written about it with a mix of pride and fear, like they both celebrated and dreaded its existence. Dale's fingers flew over his data pad, cross-referencing historical events. Every major crisis in human history, every moment when they faced extinction, there were always stories of impossible victories, of solutions no one could have predicted. A chill ran through him as a new thought formed. What if the world breaker wasn't a weapon at all? What if it was something else entirely? Something about humanity itself. He needed to get this information to the fleet. But as he reached for the communication panel, all 4 of his eyes widened in shock. The energy readings had just tripled. Whatever was happening in the human solar system, they had less time than they thought. Much less. Dale looked out the window at the distant stars, wondering if they were about to witness the return of something that had passed into legend. And for the first time in his life, he hoped the legends were wrong. Commander Tom stood at the window of Earth's orbital defense station, watching the morning sun rise over the blue planet below. The coffee in his mug had gone cold, forgotten as he studied the latest sensor readings. Something was wrong with the numbers, but he couldn't figure out what. "Commander," his second-in-command James called from the monitoring station. "We're picking up multiple objects entering the solar system. They just appeared past Neptune's orbit." Tom set down his mug and walked to the main display. The screen showed dozens of ships moving in perfect formation. Their energy signatures didn't match anything in Earth's database. "How many?" Tom asked, keeping his voice steady despite the growing knot in his stomach. 57 vessels, sir. All bigger than anything we have. And they're moving fast." Tom pressed the comm button on the console. "This is Commander Tom. All stations go to alert status. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Red lights began flashing throughout the station as klaxons sounded. Within minutes, the command center was fully staffed, each officer at their post, waiting. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." Tom straightened his uniform. "Put it through." A hologram appeared in the center of the command center. The alien was tall and scaled, with 4 eyes and blue skin. "I am Admiral Rex of the Galactic Confederation Fleet. We detect dangerous energy readings from your system. You will allow us to inspect your military installations immediately." Tom felt every eye in the room on him. Earth had never made official contact with alien life before, and now their first meeting was starting with accusations. "This is Commander Tom of the Earth Defense Force. We weren't aware of any dangerous energy readings. Perhaps we could discuss this diplomatically." The alien admiral's scales shifted color slightly. "Our sensors don't lie, Commander. Our scientists have detected power signatures matching ancient weapons of mass destruction. Weapons that could threaten the entire galaxy." "With all due respect, Admiral," Tom replied, "we don't have any such weapons. We'd be happy to prove that through peaceful inspection, but your fleet's current approach seems more like an invasion force. You deny developing the world breaker technology." Tom frowned. He'd never heard of any world breaker. He glanced at James, who shook his head. He hadn't either. "Admiral, I can assure you we're not developing any galaxy-threatening weapons. We're still working on reliable fusion power for our colonies." The alien's expression was unreadable, but his tone grew harder. "You expect us to believe these energy readings appeared by coincidence, that the power signatures matching the ancient texts are natural." Before Tom could respond, James called out, "Sir, energy spike detected. It's massive, coming from everywhere." The main screen lit up with warnings. Every sensor on the station was registering unprecedented power levels, but they couldn't pinpoint the source. "You see," Admiral Rex's hologram flickered. "You activate your weapon even as we speak." "This isn't us," Tom insisted, watching in shock as the readings continued to climb. "Whatever this is, we're detecting it too, and we're just as surprised as you are." The alien fleet had stopped advancing, holding position just past Mars' orbit. "You have 1 hour to surrender control of your military installations," Admiral Rex declared. "If you refuse, we will be forced to take action to protect the galaxy from this threat." The hologram vanished, leaving the command center in tense silence. "Options?" Tom asked, looking around the room. James pulled up the tactical display. "Our orbital defense network is good, sir, but against 57 ships of that size, we'd need a miracle." "Get me Earth Command," Tom ordered. "And someone find out what these energy readings are. If it's not us causing them, we need to know what is." The next hour passed in a blur of activity. Earth's other defense stations reported similar readings, massive energy spikes that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The scientists were baffled, the military was preparing for the worst, and the civilian population was still unaware that humanity's first contact with alien life was about to turn into a war. "Sir," James called out with 10 minutes left on the ultimatum. "The readings, they're changing." Tom looked at the display and felt his blood run cold. The energy signatures were starting to form a pattern, and that pattern was growing. Something was coming. "Get me the alien fleet," he ordered. Admiral Rex's hologram appeared again. "Have you come to your senses, Commander?" "Admiral, look at the energy pattern. It's not centered on Earth. It's moving, forming something. This isn't a weapon. It's more like something's arriving." The alien scales shifted to a paler shade. Impossible. The calculations clearly showed. "Sir," James interrupted. "Object detected." Massive object just appeared at the edge of the solar system. The main screen showed it, a shape so large it defied comprehension. It was bigger than Earth, bigger than Jupiter, and it was moving toward them. Admiral Rex's hologram showed him talking to someone off-screen, his movements sharp with alarm. When he turned back, his voice had lost its commanding tone. "Commander," he said, "we may have made a terrible mistake. The energy readings, they weren't from a weapon at all. They were from that." "What is it?" Tom asked, watching as the massive object slowly moved closer, its surface seeming to shift and change like living tissue. "Something from our oldest records," Rex replied. "Something that all spacefaring races fear. We thought the stories were myths, but—" He paused, his scales now almost white. "Commander, I suggest we postpone our disagreement. If that is what I think it is, we're all in danger." Tom looked at the tactical display, then at his crew, then back at the alien admiral. "Agreed. Whatever that thing is, it's a threat to all of us. I suggest we start talking about how to face it together." As if in response to his words, the massive object suddenly accelerated, heading straight for the gathered ships of both species. The legend they had feared wasn't a human weapon after all. It was something far worse. And now humanity's first contact with alien life would have to become humanity's first alliance, if any of them were going to survive what came next. The massive creature moved through space with impossible grace for its size. On the main screen of Earth's defense station, it looked like a living planet, its surface rippling with patterns that hurt the eyes to watch. Both human and alien crews stared in horror as it drew closer, now passing Jupiter's orbit. "What exactly are we dealing with, Admiral?" Tom asked, looking at Rex's hologram. The alien commander's scales had not returned to their normal color. "The ancient texts call it the Devourer," Rex replied. "It's appeared only 3 times in recorded history. Each time, it consumed everything in its path: planets, stars, entire solar systems. None of the civilizations it encountered survived." James pulled up new sensor readings. "Sir, it's accelerating again. At current speed, it will reach Mars in 6 hours." Tom turned to the alien admiral. "Admiral Rex, I know we got off on the wrong foot, but right now, your fleet and our defense stations are the only things standing between that creature and Earth. We need to work together." The alien commander was silent for a moment, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Agreed. But Commander, you should know. Our weapons may not be enough. The record suggests the Devourer adapts to whatever attacks it faces." "Sir," one of the human officers called out, "Chief Researcher Dale is requesting to join the conference. He says it's urgent." The blue-scaled alien scientist appeared as a second hologram, holding a datapad. "Commander, Admiral, I've finished analyzing the ancient records. The Devourer isn't just a creature. It's a living weapon created by a long-dead race. It was designed to evolve past any defense it encounters." "How did the ancient civilizations fight it?" Tom asked. "They didn't," Dale replied. "They tried to run, to hide. Some attempted to destroy entire sectors of space to stop it. Nothing worked." The command center fell silent. On the main screen, the creature's massive form continued its approach, now clearly visible even without magnification. "There has to be a way," Tom said, looking at his crew. "Everything has a weakness. We just need to find it." Rex's scales shifted slightly, showing surprise. "Commander, did you not hear?" This entity has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than either of ours. Yes, but they fought alone, Tom replied. He turned to Dale. Chief Researcher, you said it adapts to whatever attacks it faces. What if we hit it with everything at once? Different types of weapons, different technologies. Dale's eyes widened. That could work. The Devourer adapts quickly, but it can only adapt to one type of attack at a time. If we could coordinate multiple different attacks, it would have to choose which adaptation to make. Rex finished, his scales showing interest. But Commander, even with our combined forces, we don't have enough different weapon types to overwhelm its adaptation ability. Tom smiled. Actually, we might. James, show them what we've been hiding. James pressed several buttons, and new schematics appeared on the screen. The alien holograms stared in surprise. Impossible, Rex said. These weapon designs, they're completely different from anything we've seen. How did you develop these without us detecting them? We didn't develop them to hide them, Tom explained. We developed them because we think differently. Your civilizations focused on energy weapons and quantum distortion. We looked at what we had: kinetic weapons, chemical reactions, even biological agents. We made them work in space because we had to. We didn't have your advanced technology, so we got creative. Dale was studying the schematics with all four eyes. This could work. The Devourer has never encountered such primitive yet innovative weapons, combined with our advanced technology. We hit it with everything, Tom said. Energy weapons, kinetic strikes, biological agents, quantum disruption, everything we have. All at once, from all sides. It won't be able to adapt to everything simultaneously. Rex's scales had finally returned to their normal color. It's bold, possibly suicidal. But he looked at the approaching monster. We don't have many options left. 4 hours until it reaches Mars, James reported. Tom straightened. Admiral, if we're going to do this, we need to start coordinating now. Our weapons are different. Our tactics are different. Even our communication systems are different. We need to figure out how to work together. Fast. Agreed, Rex said. I'm sending coordination codes now. We'll need to position our ships carefully. The timing must be perfect. As the command center burst into activity, Dale spoke up again. Commander, Admiral, there's something else in the ancient records. A warning. The Devourer, it's intelligent. It doesn't just adapt physically. It learns. It thinks. Whatever plan we make, we need a backup. And a backup for the backup. Tom nodded. Noted. James, get me Earth Command. We need every weapons platform, every ship, every station ready. He turned back to the alien admiral. Admiral Rex, I promise you this. Whether we win or lose, the Devourer is about to face something it's never seen before. Humans and aliens working together, combining the best of both our species. The massive creature filled the main screen now, its surface patterns becoming clearer. They looked almost like faces, screaming in eternal agony, perhaps the remnants of civilizations it had consumed. But as both human and alien crews prepared for battle, there was no more fear in the command center, only determination. The legend they had feared wasn't a human weapon. But perhaps, Tom thought, looking at his crew working alongside alien tactical officers, through holographic interfaces, they were about to create a new legend. One about the day humanity and its former enemies stood together against a horror from the ancient past. They had 3 hours to prepare, 3 hours to combine technologies that were never meant to work together, 3 hours to teach 2 different species to fight as one. The Devourer had destroyed every civilization it had ever encountered, but it had never encountered anything like this. Time moved too fast and too slow at once as the combined fleet prepared for battle. The space around Mars had become a strange sight. Alien ships and human defense platforms moving in perfect formation, their crews working together as if they'd trained for years instead of hours. Fleet Admiral Jack arrived from Earth just as the last weapons were being synchronized. His weathered face showed no surprise at seeing aliens working alongside his people on the defense station's command deck. "Commander Tom," he said, looking at the tactical display, "I hear we're about to make history, one way or another." "Yes, sir," Tom replied, then introduced him to the alien commander's hologram. "This is Admiral Rex of the Confederation fleet. He's agreed to coordinate his ships with ours." Jack nodded at the alien. "Admiral, I hear we have less than an hour before our guest arrives." 47 minutes, Rex confirmed, his scales shifting with nervous energy. "We've positioned our ships according to your tactical officer Kate's plan. I must admit, it's unlike anything our strategists would have developed." Kate stood at her station, her dark hair pulled back tight, eyes focused on her displays. She had spent the last 2 hours teaching alien crews about Earth's combat tactics while learning about their technology. "The plan is simple," she said. "We just have to execute it perfectly, or we all die." The Devourer was clearly visible now, its massive form blocking out the stars behind it. Its surface patterns had become more aggressive, swirling faster as it approached. "All ships report ready," James announced. "Weapon systems synchronized." "Let's go over it one more time," Jack said, looking at Kate. She nodded, pulling up the battle plan. "The Devourer adapts to attacks, but it can only adapt to one type at a time. We're hitting it with 5 different types of attacks simultaneously. Confederation energy weapons from their capital ships, our kinetic strike platforms, biological weapons from Earth's defense stations, quantum disruption from their support vessels, and something special from our science division. The last part is what worries me," Rex's hologram said. "You still haven't told us what this special weapon is." Kate allowed herself a small smile. "That's because it's not really a weapon. While you were preparing your ships, our scientists were studying the sensor data. The Devourer's surface isn't just for show. It's how it processes information and adapts. Those patterns are like a giant neural network." 20 minutes to contact, James reported. "Time to get to our ships," Jack said. "Commander Tom, you'll coordinate from here. Kate, you're with me on the flagship, Admiral Rex." He paused, looking at the alien commander. "It's been an honor preparing for battle with you. Let's hope we live to do it again." The next 15 minutes were a blur of activity. Ships moved into final position, weapons were charged, and crews made their peace with whatever gods they believed in. The Devourer had slowed its approach, seeming to study the assembled fleet. "Energy spike," James called out. "It's scanning us." "All ships hold position," Tom ordered. "Wait for it to commit." The creature's surface patterns suddenly shifted, forming what looked like thousands of mouths. From each one, a beam of pure darkness shot out, heading for different ships in the fleet. "Now," Tom shouted. The space around Mars erupted in chaos. Confederation ships fired brilliant beams of energy that would have cut planets in half. Earth's platforms launched salvos of kinetic weapons. Tungsten rods accelerated to near light speed. Defense stations released clouds of engineered bacteria designed to eat through any known material. Alien support ships activated quantum disruptors that warped the very fabric of space. The Devourer's surface rippled as it tried to adapt, but there were too many different attacks. Where it hardened against energy weapons, kinetic strikes tore through it. Where it created quantum shields, the biological weapons slipped through. Where it tried to destroy the bacteria, energy beams found their mark. "It's working," James shouted. "We're causing damage." But then the creature did something unexpected. Instead of trying to adapt, it split into smaller pieces, each one the size of a small moon. The pieces began moving independently, each adapting to a different type of attack. "All ships fall back," Tom ordered. "It's trying to divide our fire." "No," Kate's voice came over the comm. "This is what we wanted. James, activate the signal." From Earth's defense stations, a new type of wave emerged, not a weapon, but a complex pattern of energy pulses. The same pattern that they had observed on the Devourer's surface, but modified, changed. "What are you doing?" Rex demanded. "Its neural network is adaptive," Kate explained. "So we're giving it too much to process. The pattern we're sending, it's a paradox, a mathematical problem that has no solution. The more it tries to solve it, the more complex it becomes." The pieces of the devourer stopped moving. Their surfaces began swirling faster and faster as they tried to process the signal. Some started to recombine. Others began to break apart further. "Keep up the attack," Jack ordered. "All weapons, concentrated fire on any piece that looks like it's figuring out the pattern." The battle raged for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. The devourer's pieces spun and twisted, caught between trying to solve the unsolvable pattern and defending against the physical attacks. And then something remarkable happened. The pieces that had split off began to move erratically. Their surface patterns became chaotic, uncoordinated. Some started attacking each other. "It's working." Kate's voice was triumphant. "The neural network is overloading. Each piece is trying to solve the pattern differently." "All ships," Tom ordered, "focus fire on the largest remaining piece. Everything you have." The combined fleet turned its full fury on the main body of the devourer. Energy weapons, kinetic strikes, biological agents, and quantum disruption all hit at once. Unable to adapt, unable to process the paradox being fed into its neural network, the creature's surface began to break apart. But victory wasn't certain yet. As its body disintegrated, the devourer seemed to gather itself for one final attack. Its surface stabilized for a moment, all the patterns aligning. "Brace for impact," Tom shouted. "All ships, evasive action." The creature released a wave of energy, unlike anything they had ever seen. Where it touched ships, reality itself seemed to bend. But in committing to this final attack, it had stopped trying to solve the paradox. Its neural network, already strained to breaking point, finally collapsed. The devourer, the terror of ancient civilizations, began to tear itself apart. The final battle against the devourer left everyone watching in awe. As the creature tore itself apart, cascading waves of energy rippled out in all directions. The combined fleet scrambled to move away from the blast zone, but not all ships made it in time. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 7. A crew member shouted on the human flagship. Admiral Jack held onto his command chair as the ship shuddered. "Get damage control teams down there," he ordered. "Kate, what's happening to that thing?" Kate's eyes were fixed on her display, tracking the death throes of the ancient horror. "It's collapsing in on itself." The paradox signal disrupted its neural network, and now the separate pieces are fighting each other, unable to reintegrate properly. On the defense station, Commander Tom watched as pieces of the devourer turned on each other, consuming one another in a desperate attempt to regain stability. "Admiral Rex, your ships in Sector 4 need to pull back further. The energy readings are off the charts." The alien admiral's hologram flickered as his own ship rocked from the shockwaves. "Confirmed. All Confederation vessels, increase distance to minimum safe range." The creature's death wasn't quick or clean. For nearly an hour, they watched as it devoured itself, shrinking smaller and smaller until it was merely the size of Earth's moon. But even as it diminished, its power remained terrifying. "Sir," James called out from his station on the defense platform, "I'm detecting a buildup of energy at the creature's core." "If those readings are accurate," his voice trailed off. "Spit it out," Tom said. "If it continues, the resulting explosion could take out half the solar system." The command center fell silent. They had defeated the devourer, but at what cost? If it destroyed their solar system in its death, their victory would be meaningless. "There has to be a way to contain it," Kate's voice came over the comm system. "The energy is building because the creature's outer layers are pressing in on its core. If we could relieve that pressure—" "No," Chief Researcher Dale interrupted, his 4 eyes wide with understanding. "If we disrupt the collapse now, it might stabilize and regenerate. We need to control the blast, not prevent it. "And how exactly do we control an explosion that big?" Jack asked. A new voice joined the conversation. "We create a path of least resistance." Tom looked up to see a human woman he didn't recognize on screen. "Who is this?" "Dr. Lee, head of Earth's Quantum Physics Division," she replied. "We've been monitoring the situation. The Devourer's core is building pressure because it has nowhere to go. But space isn't uniform. It has weaknesses, natural folds where dimensions meet." "You're talking about creating a controlled rupture," Dale said, his scales shifting with excitement. "Direct the explosion away from the solar system through a weak point in space-time." "Exactly," Dr. Lee nodded. "But we'll need precise calculations and perfect timing." Admiral Rex's scales changed color as he considered this. "This is beyond dangerous. If we miscalculate, we could tear a permanent hole in reality. And if we do nothing, half our solar system dies," Tom countered. "I say we try it." The next 30 minutes were a blur of activity. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers, combining their understanding of physics in ways neither had considered before. The remaining ships positioned themselves strategically around the shrinking Devourer, preparing to create a directed energy field that would guide the coming explosion. "Energy levels approaching critical," James reported. 10 minutes until detonation. On the flagship, Kate finalized the calculations with Dale's help. "The weak point is located between Mars and the asteroid belt. If we concentrate our efforts there, we can create a channel for the energy to follow." "All ships in position," Admiral Rex confirmed. Energy projectors aligned and synchronized. "This is Admiral Jack to all vessels. Begin sequence on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Every ship and station activated their energy projectors simultaneously. The beams converged at a single point in space, creating a visible distortion. The fabric of reality seemed to stretch and thin, forming a tunnel-like structure pointing away from the solar system. "The Devourer is responding to the field," Kate exclaimed. "Its energy is being drawn toward the weak point." The creature's remains, now compressed to a dense core, began to pulse with blinding light. Tendrils of energy reached out, following the path created by the combined fleet. 5 minutes to critical mass," James announced, his voice tense. Tom looked at the tactical display, noting several ships whose positions had shifted. "Some of those ships are too close to the rupture point. They need to pull back." "They can't," Rex replied grimly. "Their engines are damaged. They're maintaining position to keep the energy corridor stable. They'll be destroyed when it blows." "They know," Rex said simply. "Both human and Confederation crews. They volunteered." Tom felt a swell of pride mixed with sorrow. In just a few hours, former enemies had become allies willing to sacrifice themselves for each other. 2 minutes, James called out. The Devourer's core had become a pinpoint of light, so intense that the screens had to filter it to prevent blinding the crews. The energy corridor wavered but held steady, pointing away from Earth and the inner planets. 1 minute. "All remaining ships, maximum shields," Jack ordered. "Brace for impact." In its final moments, the Devourer seemed to understand what was happening. Its energy lashed out, trying to break free of the corridor. But the combined efforts of humans and aliens held firm, channeling its death throes toward the weak point in space. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The explosion, when it came, was both more and less than they expected. Instead of an outward blast, the Devourer imploded, collapsing to an infinitesimal point before releasing its energy as a focused beam that shot through the corridor they had created. The beam struck the weak point, tearing open a temporary hole in space-time. The shockwave that followed rocked every ship, but the worst of the explosion's force had been directed away from the solar system, disappearing into the void beyond. "Damage reports," Tom called out when the initial blast subsided. "We lost 12 ships, sir," James replied solemnly. 7 human, 5 Confederation. But the energy corridor held, Most of the blast was channeled through the rupture. The rupture itself is closing, Dale reported, his scales a deep blue of relief. No permanent damage to spacetime. A tired cheer went up across the fleet as the news spread. They had done it. Earth, Mars, and the rest of the solar system were safe. The ancient horror was gone. Hours later, as recovery operations began, Admiral Jack met with Admiral Rex on the defense station. Tom and Kate joined them, along with Dale and other key personnel who had helped coordinate the defense. "The legend of the World Breaker," Dale said, looking at the assembled humans. "I think I understand it now. It wasn't about a weapon you possessed." "No," Kate agreed. "It was about what happens when humanity is pushed to its limits. How we can adapt, how we can come up with solutions no one else would think of." "Your species thinks differently," Rex acknowledged. "When our ancestors encountered similar threats, they tried to outmatch them with superior technology. You looked for weaknesses, for clever solutions." "We had to," Jack said simply. "We've always been the underdogs in our own history. Smaller tribes against larger ones, weaker nations against stronger ones. We learned to use our minds when our muscles weren't enough." Rex's scales shifted to a color they hadn't seen before. "The Confederation has always viewed humanity with suspicion. We thought your unpredictability made you dangerous. Now I see it makes you valuable allies." "So what happens now?" Tom asked. "Now," Rex said, "we build something new. Together." As the humans and aliens looked out at the stars, they knew the legend had changed. The World Breaker wasn't a weapon of destruction. It was humanity's ability to break through conventional thinking when faced with impossible odds. And now that ability had saved not just Earth, but the representatives of a galactic civilization that had once feared them. A new legend was beginning, and this one promised a better future for all.